All right, guys, we're back for another one. You know that we are here at LearnBiz The Podcast to share the entrepreneur journey of many of the Black entrepreneurs that are in our community. So we are extremely excited to share today's entrepreneur with a very vibrant story about how she found herself in the path that she's in right now. So I'm Sandy B. I'm here with Lisa K. Crawford. We are LearnBiz The Podcast, the home of the Black entrepreneur. And today we have a special guest. And I can't even introduce this guest because I feel like I would not do it justice. But I call this guest Chef at all times. So I'm going to go ahead and bring her up and allow her to introduce herself because I just feel like it would be only proper. So our guest today, how you doing there?
Hey, good morning. Good morning. Good afternoon on the East Coast. How's it going?
Yeah. Hey.
So you know, Chef has much appreciation for me because I'm getting a West Coaster on East Coast time. So Chef, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your name because I just love your name. Lisa and I both do.
Too.
Thank you. Well, thanks for having me, Sandy and Lisa. I appreciate it. Anytime Sandy calls, I come. So it doesn't matter if I had to set 2 alarms this morning. I'm on it. I'm on it. So my name, I'm Chef Kiara Hardy. I am a chef. I'm what I like to call a chefpreneur. I am a professional culinarian. I do a number of things. I own Killa Culinary Solutions. It's a private chef and luxury catering company. So, you know, we do everything literally from private dinners for 2 to corporate events for 2,000. We do luxury weddings for 200. We do corporate events. And then we also do in-home private chef work where we are contracted. So we cook for potential clients, whether they are athletes or just professionals, high network professionals, doctors, lawyers, whatever, who need chefs at home and cooking breakfast, lunch, and dinner for their families. So we do all of those things in addition to restaurant consulting and contracting and things of that nature.
So, you know, I have to ask because, Chef got me eating bread pudding. I'm not a bread pudding fan. I went to one of her pop-up dinners and she would always do these pop-up dinners with like multiple courses. But this one bread pudding has stayed with me and my mom for years at this point. Tell us about this name, Kitchen Killa. How did that come about?
Well, it's kind of twofold. So prior to me really absorbing and taking over in the kitchen in the culinary industry, my previous life was in retail and grocery. And so back then, I used to be known as Killa because I would be the person who they would call when a store was underperforming. So if a store was underperforming, whether that be for staffing or merchandising, whatever the case may be, I would go into a store and revamp their whole space. And the joke was, oh no, here comes Killa. But I liked it, you know what I mean? And growing up, I was always considered very sheltered and I wanted to live a street life. So, but I couldn't because my parents are educators and they weren't about that life. And so when they started calling me Killa, I'm like, oh, that's me. I'm in it, you know? And so when I started cooking, I just kind of started playing around with names. And I knew I wanted to start a business right away. So when I was in culinary school, I just kept playing and I said, oh, Kitchen Killa. And it's just that simple. You start calling yourself that, you start demanding other people call you that, then that's who you are, you know? And so we just kind of took it and ran with it and built literally a whole brand around it, you know, now 9 years later.
Wow. And when I think about your early days, because I do remember early on kind of like the carving out of your talents, because you talk about doing sophisticated comfort food, and you're always trying to kind of jazz up your traditional, soul food dishes or any traditional dish. I noticed that you put a twist on it. Yeah. How did you start to consider that early on? Like, what was the reason that you started going that route?
Well, I knew that I wasn't one of those pretentious cooks, the ones who put dainty food on a plate and say, here you go. And then when you're done, you're still hungry. I knew that wasn't me. But what I also knew was that there were ways that we could make food that we love, food that's familiar, food that's nostalgic to us,
Right.
we could make that food, we could turn it up a little bit and make that food something that was considered to be high end or luxury. And so that's what I like to do. So that's where we got sophisticated comfort food. It took a while to try to figure out, what is this called? What is this, because it's not soul food. It's not, but it's also not any particular cuisine. But when we talk about sophisticated comfort food, we're literally talking about any cuisine, across the world that can just be turned up. Tacos, burgers, anything like that, right? So when we start putting lobster or duck or, duck confit on a taco, it's still comfort food, right? Now it's just an elevated level of comfort food. And so that's what I like, to be able to incorporate both ingredients and techniques that are not necessarily traditional, but into a traditional dish.
So, Lisa and I are both foodies. So I'm sure Lisa has questions for you. So I'm gonna turn over to Lisa up for a bit.
Yes, I hope you guys cannot hear my stomach growling right now. But talking about all this beautiful comfort food is definitely getting to me. So, Chef, how have you marketed yourself in terms of getting yourself out there? How do people know about you? Tell us some of those things that you do to get out there.
So marketing for me has been a transition, right? So initially, when I first started, I was just out here cooking and posting on Instagram like everybody else, and cooking for my parents and cooking for free, literally for anybody who would let me cook for them. I was out here cooking. And then I started doing these little pop-up dinners at my home. And that's what Sandy referenced. I had a 1-bedroom in Coral Springs, and it was probably the biggest 1-bedroom you'd ever see, because I would move my furniture and do these pop-up dinners, and I could fit like 17 people at a full-size table in my living room.
Wow.
And so that was my method of marketing, right? I would go and tell my friends, hey, I'm cooking. I need you to buy a $50 ticket. I need you to buy a $50 ticket. And I would do a 3 or 4 course dinner. And, it was tell your friends, tell your friends, tell your friends. And much of my business for the first probably 2 to 3 years was all word of mouth. Instagram wasn't doing anything for me. It was all about, hey, I showed up somewhere. I did a really, really good job. I gave a great service. I gave good food, and somebody told someone else. Or I gave a great service, and someone in that room was now my new client. And so I literally went on from just working for a couple people. I did a book club. One of the persons at the book club hired me to do another dinner party. Someone at that dinner party hired me to do their wedding. Literally, I think I was probably 4 events in, brand new. And I was doing a wedding reception. Granted, it was an in-home wedding reception, but it was 80 people. And I didn't have a staff. I had nothing. And so, that again, it was all word of mouth. So but then I transitioned, right? And I realized, okay, I need to be able to get out in front of people even more than my circle of people. And so that's when I went and found Crystal Chanel of Press Release Marketing. And my goal with her was, I noticed that she had a large social network, right? Her social capital through the roof. And so I said to her, hey, listen, I'm going to cook for you. You're an entrepreneur. You're always on the go. I know you're not eating right. I know you're not eating right? But she had expressed to me that she was a foodie. So I said, listen, here's what I'm going to do. This is going to work for both of us. I'm going to practice, and this will build my repertoire. But what I need from you, post my food. Tell people about my food, right? So I'm going to feed you. I need your feedback. Let me know. I need to practice, but I need you to post my food and get my name out there to your social network. Mm-hmm. And then she was at the time building a marketing company as well. And so eventually her marketing company did more than just post my food. She went on to revamp my brand. So she, redid my logo. And really turned up my social media presence and helped me figure out what exactly I should have been doing on social media to make it effective. And then also, obviously, she says all the time, good marketing turns into PR. So she's not PR, but good marketing, right? If I'm out and I'm talking, it makes you want to call me and say, hey, come be on my podcast, come be on my show, come do this, come do that. And so that's what we have done over the last, now, I think Crystal and I have been working together probably 5 years now.
Wow.
And so that's what we've done over the last maybe 4 to 5 years. It's just kind of turning it up and seeing where else we can go, and always incorporating events into that, because that's how we get out and touch people. Right. But marketing has been a large scale of things, not just one thing at all.
I love that, and it sounds like you tapped into that resource that you needed at the right time in Crystal and what she did in terms of marketing and branding. That was very smart. Now, what about, have you ever considered brick and mortar? And if so, or if not, tell us what the considerations were, why or why not.
Yeah, well, I have done over a number of years, done some restaurant consulting and partnering with restaurants. So in this space, in this time where I'm at right now, I would rather do that in terms of partnering with a restaurant, which basically means I come in and I may staff your kitchen completely. I will create your menus. I will train and produce, create a production sheet or a production training for your kitchen staff, and then allow you to put my name and my branding on your menu, right? Nice. For me, that partnership is a lot more valuable in regards to operating a restaurant than actually owning a restaurant in this space. Wow. And mostly because obviously, right, there's a lot of overhead in owning a restaurant. Yeah, right. You got your insurances, you got, and granted, we still have to have some sort of insurance, but that takes a whole nother level of financial commitment in terms of owning and having a full team of staff and all of the expenses that come along with that. So that's where I am in terms of just, I rather partner and consult and be able to lend my brand and my experience. And that way there's a start date, there's an end date, we get out, Right.
That totally makes sense to me. And what about licensing? Tell us a little bit about what you had to go through to kind of get your business set up in terms of licensing.
Well, it's just a matter of ensuring that we have everything in writing in terms of what is allowed. And we have not done this like on a official tip. That's something that Sandy would have to help me with for sure. But it's just a matter of, hey, I'm going to come in and for this time period, I'm going to allow you to use my name and my likeness in your.
Well, no way. I mean, in terms of like getting your own business set up. From the very beginning.
Got it. Oh, well, again, that's just a matter of, obviously the LLC, making sure that our name is, licensed and having a business, and then also getting that trademark so no one else can use that unless they have it, at your permission.
But nothing pertaining to food licensing per se for the business that you.
No, not so much. Okay. Mostly it's just about my name and the Kitchen Killa brand.
Gotcha.
And then the extent of that sometimes goes into recipes and that way, but that's probably as far as it goes.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to turn it back over to Sandy. I'm really enjoying this interview with you.
Likewise. Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about the early days of your business, because many times, we hear the glamorous stories. We hear about all the great things and the things that people have acquired, but what about the process? How did you get to this point? What were some of the challenges that you experienced?
Well, there are always challenges. When I started working my first culinary job, so even choosing the culinary industry as a profession was a leap of faith for me, right? I was working in retail and grocery. The last company I was working for had gone out of business. And so I was kind of sitting on my couch. It's super cliche. I was sitting on my couch and watching the commercial for the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale. And prior to that, I had loved to cook, right? I was coming home from work, working 10, 12-hour days, and I would still grocery shop at the end of the day, go home and cook, because that was my decompress. That was my chill time. And so finally I said, what if I really, really tried this as a way of life, right? As the way I make a living. And so I went to culinary school. Before I went to culinary school, I went to the orientation. While I was in orientation, one of these big box stores called me and offered me a job, offered me $103,000, offered me a job while I'm in orientation for culinary school. I turned it down, right? Because I was tired of it. And I was so unhappy, making money, but unhappy, and just not doing something that I felt was fulfilling. So that in itself was a challenge, just saying, okay, now what? I got to be able to figure out how going to school now at 29 is going to pay these bills. And so, the challenge there was like the bills didn't change, my responsibilities didn't change. And so it was just about but really tapping in, because I had a support system. I had great parents. I had a cool partner. And so, just tapping into understanding the work now that we do is going to pay off. And so it was just constantly about that. And so then as we build, going back to those pop-up dinners, it was just trying. I didn't sell out of every pop-up dinner. It was literally begging people to come. Hey, I'm cooking. Come on, and there's giving away some tickets for free just to get people in the building. And then when I started working in the culinary industry, I had one job in the culinary industry. And when I got that job, I said, this will be my last job working for somebody. I said, this is it. So my first one and my last one. So I had to work double time to build my business and to understand that when this job is over, I have to be able to sustain on my own. And being an entrepreneur, we know there is no, you're looking for checks all day. There is no every other Friday payday, right? You're looking for checks everywhere.
Right.
And so, and I'm not an outgoing person in the sense of where I'm going to ask or beg or, even go about telling people what I do. I want somebody to come to me, but you don't have that luxury, right? As an entrepreneur, you have to be selling yourself constantly. And so, just from a personality standpoint, that was a challenge for me, getting out of who I think I am and who I need to be in order to build this business. And so, I could tell you a number of challenges, right? Just transitioning. I had a great position at one point working for an NBA player. And then we ended up moving to Portland with that player. And we knew coming here that might not last, that person was probably going to jump around a little bit. And then when that ended, we were in the middle of COVID. We were, both my partner and I are entrepreneurs. So we're both looking like, how do we generate income? COVID itself for me, I'm in the culinary industry. I'm in the hospitality industry. For COVID to come and say, hey, what you do, which is gathering people, can't be done anymore.
Wow.
Yes.
How do we generate income? And so that has been a challenge. But with every challenge, you're just constantly pushing yourself to pivot, right? That was a word we used a lot in COVID, pivoting.
Oh, yeah.
How do if I can't serve people, what do I do? If I can't gather people, what do I do? So we start doing, online cooking classes. We start, doing online streaming shows where we can generate sponsors that will bring in a little bit of money, right? We start, I was able to finish a recipe for French fry seasoning that we started doing at one of the bars, right? So I was partnering at a bar here in Portland, and it was Capital Bar, and we had been using this French fry seasoning. People kept saying, I need some of that on the side. Let me take that home. And so here I am. Now I'm bottling French fry seasoning, right? And then COVID ramped up again, and we had to shut the bar down. During that winter, I sold probably 600 bottles of French fry seasoning online. And so it's just a matter of just constantly figuring out, constantly, and doing little pop-up dinners that are to go only, right? Just figuring out all different ways. So, I don't know how much of a bigger challenge COVID is, but COVID was definitely the one where you had to figure out, if my business is wrapped around people gathering and we're not allowed to gather, what do we do?
Right.
Wow.
Again, just constantly trying to figure out how to generate income. And that's why I call myself a chefpreneur, because when you think about a chef, chefs cook, right? But a lot of what I do has nothing to do with cooking. We are placing chefs with other athletes. We are training other chefs. We're hiring servers. We're teaching them, the full realm of hospitality, the front of the house, the back of the house. I've taken on a role as a director of culinary for a nonprofit here in Portland. And so I'm helping them I from scratch am developing a culinary program, a 12-week culinary program for young adults to come through and be job ready in the culinary industry. So there are a number of things within the culinary industry that, we just have to figure out in order to be well-rounded. And I'm like 80% done with the cookbook.
Nice.
I mean, do you ever have time to sleep, Kitchen Killa?
I probably sleep too much. I'll be honest with you. I get a good 8 or 9 hours of sleep, but my mind is constantly going when I'm awake.
Wow.
Wow.
I mean, you touched on something important that Lisa and I have talked about at length, is this concept of pivoting your business. We even did a whole series on the pivot. You really need to be able to adjust, because what the pandemic really showed us was, are you an entrepreneur?
Really?
Or are you just pretending to be an entrepreneur? Right. COVID really kind of did some distinction. And it also created a whole batch of new entrepreneurs. You look how many people left the workforce and were like, man, forget this. I can make money, doing, whatever the 100 things are that popped up during COVID.
Right. Absolutely. I agree. I think, COVID was definitely that thing that kind of separated the cream from the crop.
Yeah.
A lot of people went home to live with mommy after that, and here's the thing, there's nothing wrong with that, right? I think it just clears the space in the industry so you understand who's out here really getting it and who is good employees. And those good employees are valuable to those of us who are working and building businesses.
Absolutely. Well, I have a question. I would love to get some of those pearl stones, words of wisdom, if you will, about the entrepreneurial experience. What can you tell some of these young entrepreneurs who are listening to you now, who may want to follow in your footsteps? What should they know about your line of work?
Well, I'd say a couple of things. One, that there is no right way or traditional way to go about being who you want to be, whatever that is, right? Initially I went to college, flunked out of college, not because I couldn't do the work, but because it wasn't for me, right? It wasn't something I wanted to do. I stayed in my room all day. That wasn't what I wanted to do. So I went, and again, I spent 10 or 12 years in retail, and then I eventually found my way back to I found my way to something that I loved. But here's the thing. Many of my time while I was working in retail and grocery, I despised it. I hated it. I was actually embarrassed by it, right? Because I didn't have a degree, and I was running into people that I went to this private school with, and they had all gone on and done their college thing. And here I am comparing myself. I went to school with the Olympians. One of my classmates is on the Real Housewives of Atlanta right now. Wow. So I was like, what am I doing in this world, right? But because I spent those 10 years in retail and grocery, I am that much more well-rounded of a culinarian, because I understand how to manage people. I understand business. I understand my food costs. I understand all of those things that most people who just love to cook and can cook don't know how to do, right? Sure. So going back to that pearl, that wisdom is there's no right way, and don't waste any time. Don't take anything for granted that you're learning along the way. Every single thing that you learn along the way is valuable, right. And the other thing I would say is find mentors, but don't try to be them, right? Find a bunch of different mentors and soak up as much knowledge as you can. But in that process, figure out who you are, right? You have to be one of one. Other people are going to be better at you at different aspects of what you're trying to do, right. But you can be the best at doing what you do, right? Yeah. I'm not the best chef, but I probably have the best team around me, right? That allows me to look like I'm the best chef, or to be more present, or be able to do podcasts. I know a lot of great chefs who probably can't talk to you guys for 25 minutes because they want to put their head down and cook, and there's nothing wrong with that. But find out what your strong suits are, find out what the things that you're passionate about, and definitely absorb from other people in your industry. But find out who you are and follow that and do that and be you.
I love that. That's very authentic. Thank you.
For sure. Thank you.
So I know that you've mentioned a few things that Kitchen Killa has as offerings, but I kind of want to make sure that we kind of itemize this, right? Yeah. So what are some of the things that people can look to when they go to your website and your Instagram? Like, what are the things that you offer?
Yeah. So again, I have a company that both in Portland, so in the Pacific Northwest, and in South Florida, we provide private chef services. So you can hire us to come and cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? For you and your family for an extended period of time. We also do personal chef services, which is just a one-off if you're doing something special. Like this Sunday, I'm cooking for a family for Mother's Day. I think it's a family of 8, right? So we'll come to your home, bring everything that's needed, prepare a meal, serve it, clean it up, get out of there. So that's a personal chef experience. And we can do that again for, a private dinner for 2, something romantic, dinner parties for 8, 10, 20, 30. So we do things like that. We also do luxury weddings. So large scale weddings, we have a host, we have a project coordinator, decor, servers, bartenders, the entire gamut on our staff. So we can do large scale weddings and corporate events as well. And then outside of the kitchen or kind of inside the kitchen, we also do restaurant consulting. So we'll come into a space and help revamp menus, help train staff, help cost out those menus to ensure that you're making your profits. And then obviously be able to produce production sheets for your staff so that they can go on and do those things without us physically having to be there. So a number of things we do under the Kitchen Killa umbrella. And then, of course, the Kitchen Killa French fry seasoning as well.
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, that French fry seasoning is, we like to call it like you use it on everything but French fries is what people are doing now. So folks are telling me they're putting it on avocado toast. They're putting it on their tomato salads. They're putting it on their eggs in the morning. They're baking their chicken with it, literally everything. So it's really, really cool.
So there's this saying about some sauce out there that I put this on everything, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to come up with what I'm saying.
Absolutely. We're working on that. We're working on that for sure.
Oh man, I don't even know where else to go because I'm like, there's so many things. I would ask this question. Many people try to do these types of things. Many people try to go down these paths, but they don't really know where to turn. So what type of advice would you give to someone just starting out? Maybe they just finished culinary school and they're like, I really want to be a private or personal chef. I want to be similar to what Kitchen Killa is able to accomplish. What types of tips would you give to that person?
Well, I'll tell you to do something that I didn't do. I was adamant about not working in restaurants because I didn't want to get stuck in the monotony. What I learned now is that I missed a super vital part of the camaraderie of a kitchen, and then also learning from other people in a kitchen. I think the plating techniques and just the use of different ingredients and techniques that you learn from being in a kitchen with other really good people are essential. And so I would say, even if you think you want to be a private chef, go work in a restaurant. Find the best restaurant you can and go work in it. And more than likely, if you've never worked in a restaurant, you're gonna have to start in the bottom, right? You're gonna have to start in salads or, doing prep or whatever the case may be. But this is your study time. This is just like an extension of college, as far as I'm concerned. It's an extension of culinary school. So go, again, be around as many people as you can in whatever capacity you can. And then work on your craft. Working as an entrepreneur, and this, as an entrepreneur, and then especially as a chef, there is no way for you to get better without actually cooking.
Right.
You have to cook. You have to try. You have to watch YouTube. You got to watch Instagram. You got to work on recipes. You got to go find different stores. You can't shop at the same stores all the time because your imagination gets stifled in the process. So you have to always be studying, finding different farmers markets, working with different ingredients. It's a push. Right. It's a push of just kind of exploring and seeing what else you can do outside of your comfort zone. You gotta get out your comfort zone and go eat at restaurants.
I love that part. I can do that. I can do that.
Go eat and order stuff that you wouldn't normally order and look and try to deconstruct dishes. I do it all the time, and not like in a critical way.
Do that. I call it reverse engineering or something.
Exactly. And not in a way to be critical, but just to say, how did they do this? How are these flavors level? How did they layer these flavors? What was here? How did they? And then also, well, they should have done it this way. Or if they had done it this way, this would have had more flavor. Right. All of that stuff. So those are all different ways to be better and to work your way through that process.
Love it.
So, Chef, in closing, we want to make sure that anybody that catches this, because most of the time the replay is where the action happens. Right. We want them to know what you have coming up, whether in the upcoming weeks or even down the line towards the end of this year. What are some things you have coming up?
Well, last year we did a couple different pop-ups that we found to be really fun, and we're definitely going to run them back. One was our fall masquerade party, and so we did that here in the Portland area. So we did a fall masquerade. We also did a Friendsgiving pop-up dinner, and so we're going to work those back. But then this summer, we plan to do some summer day parties here in Portland. Some brunch parties. We found a really cool venue that I think we're really, the folks here are really going to love. And then we'll be in South Florida, I believe, in August. And so we just might squeeze in a pop-up there in August as well. So we're out here just kind of moving around. And, you can always find me on Instagram and find me on kitchenkilla.com. And as we continue to develop and do other things, then we'll be sure to update those places as well.
Nice. And so we're going to go ahead and put your contact information up. But while we're doing that, tell folks all the ways they can get in touch with you.
Yep. So you can always go to my website, kitchenkilla.com. You can send me an email via the website. That's probably the easiest way to do it. And then I can, respond from there. Again, on Instagram works too. You can send me DMs. Slide in my DM. That's totally cool. Kitchen_Killa on Instagram. Those are probably the simplest ways. I'm on Facebook as well, Kiara Hardy, or Kitchen Killa Culinary Solutions on Facebook as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for spending this wonderful time. I guess you're probably going to go and get a little more shut-eye.
No, I'm up now. It's work time now.
All right, because you're out there on the West Coast. And I know Oregon is a beautiful state. I've never been there. Oregon's beautiful, right?
You should totally come. It's beautiful at certain times of the year. It is very dreary from like October to February. It's nuts.
Okay.
I'm constantly trying to get back to Florida in that time frame.
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah, but right now we're kind of, the weather's about to change. We're getting into this spring summer vibe, and it's going to be a beautiful summer, I'm sure. And fall is incredible here. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We got to get out that way, Sandy.
Thank you so much, Chef. We definitely will stay tuned with whatever else you have coming up. Looking forward to the pop-up. So so definitely tune in to LearnBiz the podcast for more interviews like this one. Thank you so much, Chef Kitchen Killa Hardy. We appreciate your presence on the podcast. You can always reach Chef on her website at kitchenkilla.com. Again, brought you another one from LearnBiz the podcast. Look forward to chatting with you guys again real soon.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.